ever log off from work feeling more exhausted than when you started? Or maybe you wake up in the morning and you have this heaviness in your chest and you don't know why. You just feel tired. You don't want to go to work, but you don't know why. Well, I'm here to tell you that it could be more than stress that is wrong with you. This could be a syndrome of a workplace that is toxic or a toxic workplace culture. So let's talk about signs that you should never ignore and how you'll be able to find out whether you're in the right place of work or whether you're in a toxic place of work. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Ashetu, and if you're new here, we talk about career, we talk about the workplace, we give tips on how you can grow your career and how you can navigate the workplace, especially the professional workplace. So yes, if this feels like something that resonates with you, hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to support us. I just want to use this time to say thank you to all the people that watch our videos on a weekly basis. Thank you to all our subscribers. Thank you to all, those that click and watch. We really appreciate your support. Now let's go into the main video of today. What are the signs that you should never ignore? Those signs will tell you whether you're in the right place of work, whether you're in a toxic environment, and next thing, tell you how to flee away. So yes, the first sign is poor communication. Yes, when you receive confusing emails from top management, when you have messages from your manager late at night, your manager not understanding workplace boundaries, not understanding when to stop emailing you. They don't know the difference between your working hours and your non-working hours. These are signs of poor communication. In fact, the number one sign of poor communication is when the jobs that they give you is vaguely communicated, vague instructions, constantly changing priorities, withholding information, especially important information that should be helpful to you, that should even help you be productive. Those are huge signs that you're in a toxic workplace. Poor communication creates anxiety. It causes self-doubt because you don't have the right instruction to be able to carry out your job. And you begin to feel like, I've not performed well. You begin to doubt yourself, and it causes anxiety every time you want to talk to your boss, every time you see an email from your boss, every time you see an email from colleague, it causes anxiety to you because that communication is poor. You're always feeling as if you're doing something wrong, even when you're not. When you see this sign, guy, there is something about the toxicity of the culture. It's not about you, especially like I say to people, reflect. So don't just always make an assumption that, oh, it's the next person or it's the other person. Don't push blames, but make sure that you have reflected and you're sure that your job is good. You're sure that if you've had all the right information, that there was a proper communication, the right instruction, that you will be able to carry out that job well. So you not being able to carry out that job well was because of poor communication. And that brings us to our next point, a blame culture. Yeah. In a toxic environment, mistakes are not seen as learning opportunities. No. Mistakes are often seen as somebody's fault. They are always looking for the person that did something wrong. Who did it? Who was involved? How many people did it? Nobody's thinking about, oh, could these have gone wrong because we didn't have the right systems? Could these have gone wrong because we don't even have the right training for our staff? Were they properly trained to do this job? Do they have the right competencies? Do they have the right skills to be able to do this job? Nobody's thinking about that. The first thing that they are doing is to find out who was at fault. Who should they blame? Who should they throw under the bus? So in this kind of environment, people often feel afraid to speak up because people don't want to speak up. Other people take credit for other people's job. So imagine, because you are scared, you don't want to say, oh, I did this job, because you're always afraid, I'm not sure whether I did it well. What if something comes up? Your manager or somebody else will take credit. It also happens in places where you do a job or your manager tells you to do something and you do that, you give that job to your manager, and then next thing, your manager takes credit for the job. Nobody credits you for your hard work. Nobody credits you for even the little effort that you put. Let's even assume you didn't do the job 100%, but you put 20% or you put 30% or contributed 20 or 30% to that workflow, but nobody is even recognizing that. Again, that is a blame culture. That is not normal. And those are signs of toxic environment, or of a toxic environment. Unrealistic expectation. They set targets that you know is not achievable, right? Nobody's putting the environmental factors into consideration. Everybody just feels, go hit this target. The line yard for measuring performance is out of this world. They expect you to do things without providing the necessary resources for you to do it. Unexpected, unrealistic expectations. Those are signs of a toxic environment. How do you want to be able to achieve when you don't have the right resources? They don't expect you to have break time because the target that's been set for you is out of the world. It's not measurable. Nobody's measuring it. Nobody is even checking how those targets were being, how they came about those targets. Nobody's thinking about it. Just go, hit the ground running, just go without induction, go without training, go without the right skills. Just go and get the business, go and get the money. Your performance should be 100%. They don't take responsibility, especially the leaders. Everything is about exploitation. They want to exploit you. Oh, you've got family members. Oh, you've got this, you've got friends. Go use your resources for the organization. It's not a healthy place to work. And that's the truth, because they do not respect boundaries. And when people set unrealistic expectations, they are sort of sucking your boundaries from you. Because what that means is that you'll be expected to work late hours, you'll be expected to do unusual things, you'll be expected to use your own resources to be able to achieve that performance, which is not the case. It shouldn't be that way, right? So those are the things. Let me know in the comment section if you have ever experienced any of this, these signs that I have mentioned before. When you experienced it, did you know that it was a toxic environment? Did you even think, or did you just feel like, oh, it's stress? I'm continuously stressed. I'm always feeling stressed at work. I'm always feeling unable to go to work. I don't like my workplace, but not getting that sign. Or did you even know that it was a toxic environment? I would like to know what you did in that situation. Did you flee? Did you look for another job? Did you shield yourself of those stress? And how did you do it? We'll all learn. The fourth sign is toxic leadership. It's funny because sometimes I see leaders that tend to use each of their staff against each other. They make sure that they talk about this person to this person. They do, they micromanage people. They practice favorism. And I'm wondering, and you are a leader, you're supposed to be leading people, you're supposed to be working with people. In fact, sometimes I've seen some leaders that are wary about the success of their subordinates or of their team members. When you see those kind of situation, that's toxicity. An organization, the people, they're as good as the leaders. So if you have a leader that micromanages, that doesn't trust people, if you have a leader that always clash people together by biting, always talking about people, always asking you about what other people said, or what are they saying about me, why are you worried about that? And even if you're worried about that, why are you talking about that to another staff member? Those kind of environments are toxic environments. For me, they will drain you. They will drain you of your confidence. They will drain you of your personality. They will bring another part of, in fact, they will bring the worst out of you. One, because if you're somebody that doesn't want to be that, for you to be against them, you have to fight them. And if you can't fight them, you will join them. So it's bringing not the best out of you, but I would say the worst out of you. So leaders set the tone. So if a leader is setting the tone of toxicity in their culture or in an organization, that's exactly how that culture will be. That's exactly how that organization will be. In fact, people that are like that will thrive in that organization, not people that are opposite. So if you are opposite, that's not the right place for you. Just look for another organization that you will go to. 5, constant burnout. When you are always burnt, when there's always crisis and you're always doing the fight mode because your leaders have not planned well, there are no projections for the organization, and it's always a case of when things are happening, they are beginning to look for things, solution to those things. It will wear you out. And when there is that constant burnout, as an individual, you just know that you cannot think. You cannot be in that environment and think about performance. You cannot think about your career growth. You cannot think about your next level because you are not learning. You are constantly fighting. You need to sit down. You need to have that reflection, a time where you reflect and ask yourself, I think I need to move forward. What are the things that I've learned from this organization? When you're always firefighting, when you're always trying to put out crisis, when you're always trying to, pick up the mess of other people, even when you learn, you can't articulate those learning curves. And it's really difficult because that's the only way you want to move. You need to be able to articulate your learning curves to be able to get to your next job, right? And if you can't articulate them, you are unable to progress. You can't have that career growth that you're looking for. So when you see these signs, it makes you feel less, you low morale, you look exhausted all the time. Just know that that environment is not the right place for you. You're not in the right environment. Now, with all of these things that I've said, there are some people that their lifestyle is in a constant mode of stress. They thrive in that kind of environment. If it is for you, oh, please, by all means, stay in that environment. But if you are somebody that you don't like that kind of stress, which is a default of human being, so if you are somebody that you don't feel like, oh, I'm less of a person, I'm an underperformer, or I'm not good enough. No. By default, human beings can withstand pressure, we can withstand stress, but when it's becoming too much, when it's now a way of life and it's constant, human beings are not meant to be that way. We are meant to adapt. Yes, we're meant to be agile, we're meant to be flexible, but that's not our default lifestyle. We're not supposed to be constantly flexible, constantly, adapting to new things. And I'm talking on a daily basis because they are changing priorities. You're exhausted, your leadership tone, they're not setting the tone properly. That is an abnormal. That is not normal. And if you find yourself in that environment, please look for another job. Look for another. And if you're an entrepreneur and you realize that you're having high turnover, go back and think, what is the problem? Why are people leaving my organization? It's probably because the environment is so toxic. It's probably because there are so many changes and they can't fathom it. That's the truth. So yes, it's really, really important. So like I said earlier, I would like to hear your comments. How have you been able to thrive in an environment that is toxic? I have been there before. I think I worked there for about 2, 3 years. It was, I kept telling myself it will get better in 6 months. It will get better in 6 months. It will get better in 6 months. But it never got better. So I realized that it wasn't getting better because they were changing the goalposts. The priorities were constantly changing. And of course, I had to look for a way out because it wasn't healthy. I wasn't healthy. I didn't have good family life at that point. It was draining every part of my life. So I know what I'm talking about. It's an abnormally. You shouldn't be in that environment. Yes. So we've come almost to the end of this video, but what I want to tell you is that your mental health matters. It might sound like these things are familiar. It might sound like, you've heard this before. If you feel that these signs that I've mentioned above are familiar, take a moment and reflect and ask yourself, what is really happening to me? Do I need to make a change? What change do I need to make? Drop a comment. Let's hear if you've ever worked in a toxic environment and how you came about it. One of my strategies on how I coped there was I always give myself a 6 months plan. So I always felt it was going to get better in 6 months. If I do this in the next 6 months, things will get better. Then when I realized that it wasn't getting better, I had to go. Don't forget to click the subscribe button. Don't forget to click the notification bell so that you'll always be the first to see whenever we drop a new video. It's been wonderful sharing these thoughts with you, and I would like to hear your thoughts in the comment section. So until we meet on our next video, if you are in a toxic environment, please reflect and begin to take some changes or some steps to those changes. Until we meet next time, bye.